Good evening, everybody. What is up? My name is Matt, and welcome to Diggin live from the Relic Room. I am super excited to have you guys here in the Relic Room with me tonight, and our guest. If you're not familiar with Diggin live from the Relic Room, this is a weekly chat interview show that we come hang out and intermix with the metal detecting community, and it is always a great time. We try to feature the best guests and folks here in the metal detecting world, and this is what we do. So I hope everybody's had a great week out metal detecting and searching for treasure, whether that's bottles, insulators, or whatever it is, coins, silver, gold, whatever it is you do. My week's been pretty busy holding on to the baby and taking care of that and some other things. But for now, we're not gonna put a pause on anything, and we're gonna roll right into the show tonight. I'm really excited to have everybody here in the chat with us. Let's go ahead, and we are going to have the fantastic Hoover Boys here with us this evening. I don't need to introduce them. You guys know who they are, and let's see if we can bring them in. So. There we go. Oh, man. So, Kurt and Brad, great to have you guys this evening. And for anyone who's wondering what that noise in the background was, that is Bob in the background doing top secret squirrel things and Bob things, right?
Some Bob things, yes.
So, so how are you guys doing this evening?
You go, Brad. I've done
Awesome.
these before.
Yeah, me first. You first. No, you go. I'm good. It's I think it's an average Tuesday night for me. Work, gym.
Right on. Kurt, put the kids to bed, hang out.
Well, they're upstairs screaming right now.
Yeah, I'll let the wife handle that. Bob is out chasing down bad guys, I guess.
It's a working man.
Wearing his vest.
Bob, are you wearing your vest?
I'm not wearing my vest.
He is not wearing his vest.
It's like 100.
Bob, wear your vest.
So we've got a bunch of people hanging out in the chat, but for the folks who don't know, let's get straight into it. Just talk to me about how this all came about. Either your individual metal detecting treasure hunting stories all the way up into the channel. Me and Bob have talked at length about this. Tell me your story, Kurt, Brad.
Go ahead, Brad.
How did it start? It's all your fault, man.
Somebody's got to speak.
All right. Well.
I had to turn my live feed
Well.
volume down because there's like a 3-second delay in between that and me being hooked up live to talk. So it's like,
I can barely hear you, Bob. It's like you're not even here, man. I'm sorry.
He said,
it's like a 1977 Kung Fu movie with the volume turned up twice.
Bob, this may not work because the guys can't hear you at all.
Oh,
I can hear
tell them to turn their hearing aids up.
He said, turn your hearing aids up. So here's what I can promise, Bob. I can promise you, what are you doing Sunday?
Me?
Yeah, can we have a dedicated Bob show? Would anybody watch that?
I think I have
Everybody
to
would
dig
watch that.
Sunday.
You have to dig Sunday?
Yeah, I think the boss has me out digging Sunday.
All right. Well, unfortunately, Bob, I don't think this is going to fly.
Yeah, I see them shaking their heads and raising hands.
So,
Well, you're louder now. Did you just finally put the phone up to your mouth? That's better.
Me? Can you hear me now?
Yep. Oh yeah, it's pretty loud and clear now.
1, 2, can you hear me?
yeah. All right, we got you.
All right.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
What
All
are you
right, so
doing?
we're working through technical difficulties, but we're starting off just see what we can do. How did this all start? It's Kurt's fault.
It wasn't planned at all. We all sort of joined or were joined to the local metal detecting club around the same times, and we ended up seeing each other out digging the same public sites and became friends that way. I mean, this was years before I was dumb enough to start doing videos on YouTube. And one day I decided to live dig a signal, and I made the first episode of the Hoover Boys. And a couple weeks later, we all met up at our site that we went to, and I was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna take some video today." Brad was like, "I don't care."
Yeah. Right on, man. So let's go back even farther than that. Like, I want to know your treasure hunting story. Like, how did you get into metal detecting before the Hoover Boys?
Let's see. It was early 90s, and my best friend in my neighborhood, him and his father had metal detectors, and I would actually go out and watch them metal detect before I got a metal detector. So I saved up all my money that summer and bought my first metal detector, and then soon after traded that in for a better metal detector. And it was mainly digging my yard, my buddy's yard. We'd door knock around the neighborhood and go to a local park, but it was it's a lot different when you're a kid and don't have wheels. But we found a couple cool things, and always enjoyed it. And then there was that space of time where you grow up a little bit and you get jobs and have to pay for car insurance and stuff like that. And I didn't metal detect for a handful of years, and I got back into it as an adult, going through my basement and saw the old metal detector, dusted it off, detected my yard at the time. It was a 1930s house, found a bunch of Wheaties, and I was hooked again.
All right, Bob. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm going to have to drop you on this one. I'm going to come back. We're going to come back and get Bob. I can't. I'm sorry, buddy.
You hear bullets?
He's got to go do. He's got to go do some other things. He said. Okay. Well, we're going to get Bob straight on the stream. Yeah, man. So was there like a find that happened that you were like, man, this was like, you were hooked? You know,
there was as a kid, I didn't find a whole lot. I mean, I found my first mercury diamond in my parents' backyard. My buddy and I found like a large scent spill back in one of the old parks back in the woods. It wasn't anything too crazy as a kid, but I've always been a coin collector as a young age. And when I got back into the hobby, all I wanted to do was find an Indian head scent. And when I found one, I went out metal detecting every single day trying to find this Indian. And I finally found it. And when I thought I found it, it would relieve me of like, okay, I found it. I'm good now. I should do other things. But all it did was made me want to find every single Indian that was ever lost.
Right on.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
All or nothing.
So, Brett, what was your backstory before all of this? Like, how did you get into metal detecting? And I mean, I think that what's common with all of this is that we all have the same passion for history. I mean, what was it for you?
I don't know, man. Born a THer, I guess. Just I've been a money change scrounger from birth. I mean, I go to the supermarket and look for all the change I could under the aisles, and just always looking at the ground trying to find stuff, and I just couldn't stop myself. See a guy metal detecting, probably 10, 11 years old, something like that. Realize that there's a toy out there that can aid in the search of finding lost shiny things. I'm in. I'm all in. It's all over. So I got my first machine. I was like 12 years old, probably. It was a Radio Shack piece of young, and I wore it out. I broke the handle off it. I duct taped it back on. I kept using it. Finally got a bounty hunter. Then I got a White's IDX when I was like 16 with my lawn mowing money. And it's pretty much stuck with me. I mean, I've had my lulls here and there like Kurt has, but it's, I've pretty much been detecting since I was about 12, 13 years old, probably. Yeah.
Right on, man. And I think that's, my wife is the same. She said, I check the coin stars. And I think that once you're a treasure hunter, you're always a treasure hunter. Like, it doesn't stop. You can't get rid of that.
Doesn't
As a
go away.
kid, I would walk down the road just looking at the ground. My eyes never came off the ground because I was looking for things that people lost, and I'd find jewelry and coins and whatever just in the parking lot at the grocery store.
Right on, man. Right on. And that's, I mean, it's like that hope that you go to the beach and you'd find something or something will wash up, treasure hunting, pirates, and all that stuff. I think that's what it always is about. So, like, as you grew and progressed, I mean, as you guys was there a time that you said, like, man, we probably should be hanging out and doing this all the time together besides just bumping into each other in parks and stuff like that?
Nothing was ever planned. It just sort of happened. Like, as soon as I started doing videos, like, I enjoyed doing it. Looking back on the videos, they were absolutely terrible, but I thought they were good at the time.
And I had no idea. Until I saw a couple episodes on YouTube. I'm like, it kind of looks like an episode. Is he making a show? Okay. All right. I like digging Indians and seems like a nice guy. Okay, great.
Yeah.
No,
that's
really,
cool.
Totally wasn't planned. And I was all in. It's been great.
I think that's what makes it well, I mean, I'll speak for myself. Is that watching it's relatable. I mean, like, it's all genuine. There's nothing fake or made up about you guys out having fun, and that's really what I enjoyed about bumping into you guys out of Diggin in Virginia. Everybody has what they want to say about people on the internet. I'm sure people talk silly things about me or anybody, but what you guys do conveys naturally. Whether it's, talking about something that you knew was going to be a good target to Bazinga or whatever silly made up term, And I think sometimes when it comes into like being a YouTuber, I think that's where the guys at KG and Ringy got like a really bad rap, I think they're generally nice guys. You probably have met them before, and I think that they got a bad rap because they were just being themselves.
I'm really told to act a certain way, to an extent. When you're in front of the camera, you're told to like re-dig something, 4 or 5 times until you get the right shot and say this or say that, and it becomes a little bit manufactured, which is where you probably lose your old timer, more stoic diggers, but it also kind of, the people who are new into the hobby, they're probably getting into it more. So it goes both ways, but I totally know what you're saying.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's funny looking back on some of those shows because they were playing around the same time that I got back into the hobby. So, like, I'd watch them on TV and be like, oh, wow, look at that. And I look back at it now, I'm like, they didn't even know what that was? I did it completely wrong. That's not even what it was. What are they talking about? This is terrible. But,
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's like, but those guys, it's funny because those guys are from Montana, so the stuff that we would find to be normal here is just really interesting. So for anybody who's in the chat, if you guys have a question, please throw at Gone Diggin or one of the moderators with the blue wrench. Use their name and highlight it, and we'll try to get to the questions as we go.
And just so you guys know, we can't see the chat at all, so we're not responding to. I don't see anything.
Yeah, so I think Brad's probably pulling up his phone. I've got.
I had it playing on my phone, which was all that noise in the beginning. Sorry about that, man.
Yeah, and I've been adjusting mic levels and stuff. It's funny when you do these things, they never are supposed to go smoothly. And unfortunately, I'd love to have Bob in, but it worked really hard to get Bob into this stream. One, because he's a really funny dude who has
He's a character.
Piles of treasure stories, though.
He's a very good talker. He would talk the entire show.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is, and that's a compliment, Bob.
We love you, Bobby.
Bob said Brad's always playing Candy Crush.
Candy Crush, come on. I'm
So,
not a gamer.
So let's talk about let's talk about the evolution of of machines and what you went through.
Brad, you sort of touched on this already, but you can go again.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Sure.
So not only like, so you went through some of it. I'm gonna gain you up there, Brad. All right, there we go.
Sure, sure. You hear me okay?
Yeah, we're yeah, that's much better.
Gotcha. Okay, that's it's when you're a kid, you kind of use what you're given to start with, right? So Christmas rolls around, oh sweet Radio Shack, or oh sweet it's a bounty hunt. You don't know, what you have, and you just use it until you break it, and that's what the hobby was for me. So I started to look into metal detectors, and I could use the internet as a research tool, and got into the White's machines. They were reliable. They beeped deep. They were quiet. They were easy to use. So I used those for a while. I had a White's M6 for a bit. Tesoro machines I've used. Fisher F75 obviously for quite a while. And I've been a Garrett man for a couple of years. The AT Max has just really stuck with me. I like the sounds. I like the balance. It works for my ear, and I seem to get over it more with that machine. So that's what works.
Right on. And I think it's interesting too that there's I think everybody has an evolution, right? I mean, like at some point in time, you went from being a kid and you had to go out and purchase your own machine. That research and there's even at that point in time, there were a million different options out there.
Yeah, I was, I probably would have been 1999 too. That still would have been fairly young, but I think TreasureNet was still around, and you could still get on some of those forums. And I was obsessed with depth. It was like, I need the deepest machine. How come I can't get a clear-cut answer on what the deepest machine? This should be easy. I didn't understand soil conditions. I didn't understand so many different variables. But somehow I settled on Whites, and at that point in time, in the 1990s, early 2000s, there were a lot of Whites dealers, a lot of little pop-ups, and you could go and try a Whites machine somewhere in somebody's house, or you could go to an authorized distribution center. Whites was ahead of the game with getting their machines out there, and they had that commercial, and so that's probably why I went that route. And the machine, like I said, it worked well. So that's why I landed with Whites.
And the MXT,
yeah,
those were incredibly deep machines,
The XLT started it all off. I mean, the XLT was the first VDI machine? I'm pretty sure. One of. So that was mid-90s, early 90s? XLT Spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Great machine.
Yeah. And so what was your evolution the same, Kurt? I mean,
my evolution obviously started with the Radio Shack, orange handle, screw knob, black head toy from Radio Shack. Yeah. My friend and his father, as kids, they had the Eagle Spectrum from Whites. So my first machine I paid for was a Whites Coin Master, which didn't have any readouts, and all I did was dig a whole bunch of trash. So that was right around the time in the early 90s, I think 93, 94, where the Whites XLT came out, and I saved up a little more and bought that one, which I still have, and it still works. I used that as a young teenager, and when I got back into the hobby, I used that for a little while, and everybody else had the AT Pro, and I'm like, they're finding everything with the AT Pro, so I went out and bought a Garrett AT Pro, and I used that for the longest time. And then, for whatever reason, Calico, caught wind of us, or Brad had a connection with Calico, and Brad told him that we had a YouTube channel, and they started sending us machines. So I ended up testing a whole bunch of different machines for Calico with the Nocta Impact, and first it was the Nocta Force Core, and then it was
Force Core.
The Impact. Yeah, the Force Core.
Tough machine to use.
It was just different.
Yeah, different.
I bought an AT Gold. And then Calico sent me the MindLab CTX 3030, which we ended up giving away a couple years ago on the channel. I bought an XP Deus. Shoosh. There's just so many machines. I have a couple machines in my garage that I'm just waiting for the kids to get old enough so they can they can take them out because they're just collecting dust. But the AT Max came out, and I was done with everything else. It just clicked with me right off the bat, and I'm like, this is my machine.
Yeah, I mean, and you had used Garrett's for a long time. Obviously, you know, the story of the name is that you were in one of your parks, and what your club said that you were sucking up all the coins.
Yeah, that was at one of the parks, and there's a guy, John, there, and he was trying out his XP Deus. He just bought an XP Deus. Now, granted, he didn't know the machine that well, so he didn't have any custom programs or anything, but he came up to me and was like, hey, if you get any deep signals, let me swing over them with the XP Deus and see if I can hear them. You know, it's a great way to learn any machine is compare signals.
Absolutely.
And there's a handful of signals that I was like, here's a deep one, come beep it. You got nothing. You change frequency, do this, change that, nothing. And it'd be like a 12-inch button or whatever else, Indian piece of Victorian jewelry, whatever. And he emailed our treasurer. It's like, saw Kurt at the park with his Hoover sucking up all the goodies. I thought it was funny. So I printed out a little piece of paper with a Hoover emblem and taped it on my AT Pro, and I guess the rest is history.
I think I heard Steve say Hoover Boys first. I'm at a club meeting. I think he said Hoover Boys first. The Hoover Boys were over there, so don't bother going over there. I'm pretty sure I heard Steve say that.
Somebody named us. We didn't name ourselves. And when decided to create a YouTube channel, we were already sort of named. Our little clique was the Hoover Boys, so we went with it.
Right on, man. And that's cool, man. Another thing that happened pretty naturally. There's a bunch of questions flying through the chat, and I'm going to get to those. They're just kind of a little out of order, but we are going to go through that. So, like, what I also like about your channel is that you guys use a big variety of coils, and I think that most folks that go out and metal detect don't really realize like the importance of coil selection. So maybe you could talk a little bit about like your coil selection or what you guys think about when you're actually when you have a field or a place to hunt, like just considerations for that stuff.
The stock coil that comes with every machine is great. It's a great medium. It's a great balance of depth and separation. But you get up close to a house, or you get into a foundation or an iron patch in a field, you want the separation, so you want a smaller coil. The smaller coils still go pretty deep. Now, when you want depth and you want a surface coverage, you get the bigger coil for fields, and everybody should have 3 coils for that reason.
Absolutely.
Brad's been swinging the stock coil and getting stupid depths with it recently.
I hit a farthing in England. Yeah, that was. I mean, this is a lash, right? So I got it at like, it must have been 15 inches. I mean, a little farthing, so not quite as big as a halfpenny. It was crazy. So that was a stock coil, but that was in the morning. The ground was wet, and the top of the coil was wet, and that really seems to help that thing out. I swear it does. But yeah, I've been a stock coil man for a while. Probably even pushing a year. I was swinging the Nell Thunder on the AT Max for a bit. Good coil. It started having issues and went back to the stock coil and really enjoyed swinging the stock coil. I stay tuned in longer. Balance the best, and it's made for the machine. I mean, it's engineered for that machine, and I just have been getting good results with it, so I stick with it. Or I slap on the little coil, and as Kurt said, that thing is actually scary deep. I think it's a little 5. When you're just poking around a pathway or something, separation is fantastic, and depth is stupid. Seriously.
Well, I think that other part of that is that you can pull that coin at that depth because, one, you're in tune with your machine probably a lot better than most folks. I mean, probably the nuances of the machine you use, probably if you two switched machines, even though they're AT Maxes, every machine has a little bit of a different tone change. Or
we have a relationship with Garrett, and like we've talked to Steve more about it. He's like, we tweak the AT Max or the AT Pro like ever since it came out. So every single month it could be a different machine in one way or the other. And Brad always talks about how, like, I have a hot machine or you got a hot machine.
Oh, it's so hot.
It's so hot.
It's so hot right now. I hate it.
Well, and even if you go back to the older guys, there's this guy named Jerry Tyndall, and he made this machine called a Nautilus, and
Right.
you could take your machine and he would tune it just for you, you know. And that was in the old days where you drive from Maryland or Virginia all the way down to North Carolina and sit and have a beer with Jerry, and he would go, "I've got this coming out," and he'd tune it and tweak it and send you on your merry way, and then you had the hottest machine in your area for a while, you know. And I think that happens on production machines. It's just not it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, that's when boxes were like put together with like big pieces of aircraft aluminum and held together with 8 screws and just get it right and tweak and put it back together and
Right. Transistors, and you put 78 9-volt batteries on it.
Kill your arm.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk about this because somebody else asked, and I've been a secret stalker of your channel, like telling you to go out and buy PI machines for a year, and but you guys are now swinging an ATX, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep,
Brad, are you swinging an ATX?
It took the Indian Head burial ground to the next level. Surprisingly, yeah, it's really for those low conductors, and the little bits of stuff. It's like the tiny bits of Victorian chain and the things that we're able to find at depths that the VLF machines couldn't sniff. It's really interesting. Granted, digging pretty much just as much iron as before, but you're pulling up those little conductors that you weren't hearing those before. Yeah, definitely as much iron as my F-75 used to pull out of that place. God dang.
Yeah,
I would count my nails. I would pull 100 nails out of that park.
I still dig like big hunks of iron nails. Like I went there today for a few hours to just clear my mind and pull out a huge iron nail. I'm like, how did Brad miss that one? Every time, like, how did Brad miss that one? Because like we end up walking over the same places every time. Like, you know, we'll start like we need to focus on this area. And then we just sort of migrate to where we've always gone and just do the same loop around. We're still finding stuff. It makes no sense.
We swung over the same little spit of land 300 times.
Love Token Hill.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's cool, man. And I mean, I'm a PI guy. I think it's I think it's the way of the future. One day they're going to come out with if Garrett wants to end the competition, they're gonna come out with a machine that is a PI machine that discriminates out nails. And I think then you could aside from using a bulldozer on the site, you could hunt a place out then.
Yeah.
You know.
It needs to be as light as a dais, though, because this ATX is freaking tank. It is heavy.
Yeah, we will get to that question. I'm sure you guys get it all the time. Yeah, and that is the real downside. I swing a MindLab GPX, and that really is the downside of the PI machines is that that they're heavy, man. They are brutal.
Really nicely, that the APX is just a brick all around. There's no hiding it. It's a brick.
So
maybe 4.
So when you guys started out, when you started out metal detecting in parks, and that's how you guys kind of got all acquainted. You know, I think it's interesting on a lot of your videos that you actually show, for the most part, you show your surroundings and things like that. How did you get the nerve to go out and find permissions? Or do you, like, some people hate it, like door knocking, like somebody asking the question, like, do you have like I won't say a scheme, but like a spiel that you throw out, or do you say, hey, we'll just go put Bob out and he'll go door knock, and while he's talking to him,
I wish Bob was on the line.
We'll go detect, and if they say yes, cool. If they say no, we've already detected the place.
I wish Bob didn't have his. He recently got back into having a job. He was he was out on injury for a while, and he would go out door knocking with me. I would do most of the knocking, but I would strike out a handful of times, like, Bob, it's your turn, And Bob's a talker; he has no problem going up and knocking on the door. But we were pretty much forced into it because we lost one of our biggest parks that we went to, and we used to host all the time. People would come to town, like, yeah, sure, come out digging with us, whatever. We had this huge place, and that was overtaken by a historical society. So we're like, we have to learn how to knock on doors now. So I came up with a little spiel, and it worked, and I've tweaked it over the years, but sometimes I say it too fast because I've said it out loud to myself so many times. And then they'll look at me like, the older people, I got to remember to slow down. Brad always makes fun of me. It's like, I didn't even understand what you were saying. You're so fast.
It does work, and you'll get a ton of no's too, but even after the no, you can still be persistent and try to draw some common ground with the person who just said no, or I'm not really comfortable, or what are you guys trying to do? You talk about where you live, where you went to school, what you're living, and it's like, oh, do you know so and so? Oh, I used to work over here, and we're bad guys after all. So you can often turn a no into a yes, just continuing the conversation a little bit longer than saying, oops, sorry, I'm out of here, bye. It takes work and temerity. It's tough sometimes, but got to go for it.
Yeah, I think it's like finding a common ground with somebody, so you turn that corner from being a stranger to being somebody who's relatable, that you're like, oh, yeah, not that big of a deal.
And not selling something, get to the door. I am not selling you something. I just have some questions for you.
I always start the conversation with, sorry for bothering you, because I hate when people knock on my door, because if you have a dog, the dog barks and it wakes up your kids, and you're automatically in a bad mood. You're like, why is somebody knocking on my door? So I was like, sorry for bothering you. I state my name, state your business, and my friends and I do metal detecting as a hobby. Wonder if we can do some metal detecting on your property.
There it is.
I'm like, we first asked for the field way over there. Can we do some metal detecting in that field way over there? And then once you warm up you found, then you move in closer to the house and the property.
Yeah. Well, we'll park on the road and we won't even bother you.
Well, that's another thing too. Like, after you get the yes, I'm like, where is it okay to park so we're out of your way? We don't want to intrude in your privacy. Blah blah blah. Because I even when you get the yes, you'll get the people that turn around 20 minutes later and be like, because they see you digging. And they're like, a lot of holes, and they think you're finding stuff in every one of these holes.
And some don't realize you're going to be digging too. That's the other thing. You guys are here to.
I'm going to be careful about it, but it's still going to cut your grass.
Yeah. And also always ask where not to go. That's another key thing. Is there anything which is off limits? So they know that you're respectful. Where can we go? Where can we not go? And we'll be out of sight, out of mind. And thank you so very much. We'll show you everything we find, and we do that.
Yeah, and you do. And so somebody just asked, do you show them what you find? And absolutely. I mean, that's part of the honesty of what you're doing, right?
We've been very lucky with property owners. Most of them just want to see what we find. And we'll be like, is there anything in here you want? And they're like, you find it. You found it. You guys keep it.
Yeah, we try to give them things, take it, please. You want the flat button? Do you want keep it? I've given away mercury dimes. I've given away whatever I can.
Right, bullets.
And there's been times where this one property, I found this. It's like a war medal. There's and there's some accuracy thing, some war medal from 1899, and I knew something like this doesn't get lost in somebody's yard without it being part of the property's history. And I'm like, look at this. This is pretty awesome. You should display this in your house.
Right. That is absolutely. I mean, that's cool because then you're still relating the history. I mean, part of the true excitement is for me is now it's just to capture it on video. Like that's as sometimes as good as having it in my hand, you know? Like I can go back and say this is everything I found on video this year. You know? And it's funny, one of my guests said that his son had started metal detecting and literally everything he had ever found was on video. Can you imagine, like, if you thought about that? Well, it would be a lot of video, but to have that kind of record would be incredible.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of things. A lot of times we'll go out and I'm like, dude, I'm having a mental health day. I'm stressed out. I don't want to take any video, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody will find something stupid. And it's like, I have to turn the video camera on. Like, there's no way I can't document this. It needs to be documented for, like, us. And it's so cool. We need to show people.
We have the best days, Florida's mental health days. It's like we get out there and it's just like, all right, we just want to relax and have a great day digging. And then, oh, that's a straight bust half cent. So we're not going to film that? Okay, well, I'm here with Brad. Not happening.
Well, there's times where, like, we're having a slow day and Brad's like, can you just say it out loud? We're having a mental health day, just to turn it on. It's like sites turn on and off. Like the Indian Head Burial Ground, the place we go to, it's like it's just like fishing. Like early in the morning and late in the evening, it turns on. Like everything in between, it's off for whatever reason. I went there today in the middle of the day. It was off. I found a marble that just happened to be in a hole with an iron nail, and I found a flat button. And I was like,
and you found what? 9 flat buttons the hunt before that? Something like that? 9 flat buttons out of the burial ground?
Yeah, that's wild, man. And you've literally hunted this place for years.
Everybody has.
Yeah, and
every machine that's ever been produced.
Since 1978, absolutely.
Yeah. And just for everybody who's new in the chat who stopped in, be sure to reach over, click that like button, show some love to your moderators who are there helping us out fielding the questions and everything like that. And we've got some great moderators in the chat. And I got to throw a special shout out to Plugmaster Ford, who's my technical advisor on all of this craziness we've got going on. So Ralph McGee asked, do you ever have any issues with the numbers? Like, do you have to like work into the fact that you guys want 5 guys out in the field?
It's tough finding sites where, you know, like we get so many people asking to come dig with us. And I'm like, I already have 4 other mouths to feed. I got to look out for my guys first. Like private properties, like you can only bring a certain amount of people to private property. Like I won't go door knocking with more than 3 people, like 2-3 people tops. Like we've convoyed cars before and going down, like pulling in somebody's driveway with 2-3 vehicles and like knocking on the door. Like we've done it. We've obtained permissions a few times, but that's not the way to go about it.
And I hate it. I hate it so much.
You want to tread lightly when you're on private permissions.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's it's easy to see that, you know, like, yeah, whether somebody produces their stuff on, you know, on camera or not. I mean, over the course of the internet, if you're finding stuff, people want to go with you, and it's just really not feasible. I mean, it's not that Bob's a baby bird, but he needs to be nurtured and loved.
You got that right.
So
he's got a lot of love. Though.
Yeah. So the other thing, so I mean, we're just kind of fielding a few things here. Adventures in Dirt asked, is it hard to be the cameraman?
Yeah, absolutely. It sucks, but it's something I did myself. I can't tell you how many times I can't even get into my own groove because like I'm throwing around like a ball. Like he's got something, I need to go over here. I'm like, I'm gonna go dig a hole, and then like somebody over here. Ugh. But
it makes him dig harder.
Yeah, I dig hard. That's why I'm at the time. People don't understand how much I'm running around and I dig hard, man. I don't know when I'm getting called away.
Yeah. I try to stay kind of close, but I always end up in a far corner. I just don't know why, and it's like,
everyone, like,
crap.
Brad
all right, I gotta call him over here.
Wandered away. really
I can't
far
help
away. Then he finds something like,
Oh.
I want to go over
I'm super antisocial. That's all there is to it. Leave me alone.
It's so antisocial. You came and hung out with us tonight, which we appreciate. You know, what was I going to ask? Yeah, I mean, the cameraman thing, man, you're all over the field for that. And, you know, actually what I did want to ask is kind of stepping back is, so have you ever door knocked on a permission and you walked up to a house and said, there's no way we're getting permission for this place? And they were like, yeah, sure.
it. It all depends on the owner. Like, I have a mentality like they're either going to be cool or they're not going to be cool. And like some of the we've knocked on people's houses that are millionaires. Like they have millions and millions of dollars. And for them to allow us to dig holes in their yard or out in their fields or whatever blows my mind. It's like these people are loaded. And they're like, there's some homeless people trying to metal detect on our property. Go ahead. Let us know if you want any tea.
And they bring cookies out. Those are the best permissions.
Yep, perfect permission.
It's happened. Sometimes they take care of you and they just want to make sure you have a great day. You just run into that legitimate, Southern hospitality. It's really beautiful. Yeah,
right on, man. So, and I guess kind of we'll talk about some of the evolution too of you guys in the summertime. You used to always dig in fields or hunt out and scout woods, but over the last year you've kind of merged into some of the water as well, right?
Water is opened up our eyes.
Yeah. Big shout out to Ron, Mark, and Steve. I mean, those guys.
Everybody.
They got some property down there, and that's what got it all started in the water. The Gold Coin episode and hanging out with those boys. Those are some good.
And we get so many questions like, why are you guys finding so many buttons and coins in the water? It's like, well, before there was highways, the waterways were the highways. This is how people transported, and they had landings, and this is a huge, big traffic area. And not only that, but people washed their clothes in the water because they didn't have washing machines, and coins and buttons fell off.
Absolutely, man. And that's where, I mean, I live. It's terrible. There's two things I want to dig. I want to dig pits, and I want to dig in the water. Outside of that, I used to love being in fields and stuff like that, but I just live for the water season now. I mean, because it's different now. People don't understand how much work it is, right?
It's a little sketchy too. I mean, you're neck deep in brackish water. There could very well be a bull shark or something larger right next to you at any time. And these are the same rivers where you found shark's teeth as well. It's granted these are 50 billion years old, but there's a possibility. That's why you haven't seen Bob in any water.
Bob was just making a comment about all of the bull sharks and the last 4 Bob comments have been shark.
He's scared. He's very scared.
He doesn't like sharks. He doesn't like airplanes.
What? Yeah, that's it. It's really it is. It's cool. People are like, oh man, you guys had some really awesome spots that those guys hooked you up with, or you maybe researched out on your own over the last year. But it's a lot harder physically just to retrieve one target is difficult.
I get frustrated out there sometimes. Yeah, it's tough. Pinpointing is crazy, and there's tides too. So you actually can be pulled in and out a little bit. So if you're neck deep and you're chasing a copper signal, it can be tough because you're constantly moving. You have to mark it with your heel and keep it, and it's tough.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I live in a tidal area as well, and it's not that you can go all the time just because there's water there. You have to get everything in order to make it work. And then boats and landings and all of that.
Last year was like the wettest season ever. So like, even when it was low tide, it was still flooded at the same time. It's like, why can't we get a drought? Why can't we have a super low tide like in the wintertime?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping for all that as well. I'm hoping for a drought. I mean, I don't want the rivers to drain completely dry, but it wouldn't be that bad if they did.
Yeah.
Like you know, there's places where, I mean, we haven't got into the actual like diving stuff yet, but there's places where I'm on my tippy toes, neck deep, and I'm still getting high tones, and it's just like the tide just turned, and I'm starting to get pushed, and I can't stay here anymore. And you know, there's stuff deeper in the water.
All right, I'm gonna drop this on you. So this is last year was my first diving experience, and
Huge
I
tooth.
moved it, but well, let's go this way. Those two bad boys right there, fresh out of the water at 20 feet, and then everything else is water as well.
That's cool.
So I'd be interested to see you guys diving. I think that you would do absolutely insane, especially at your Gold Beach there.
How's your visibility at 20 feet?
Like probably about that far.
Okay.
Yeah.
About the same.
So yeah, you can't see the bull sharks that are about to eat you.
Okay.
No, it's. I think it's relatable to maybe jobs that we've done prior. So you get accustomed to being in certain environments, and once you get there, it's absolutely it's fun. But it takes again, it's another aspect of this hobby that I think that if you spent your entire life on, I mean, where would you guys see yourself in the next 10 years doing this?
Ooh.
I'm listening.
Go ahead, Brad. Like I said, we
I have
don't
no
plan
idea.
anything, like-
I'm in it until my body won't let me more, and then I'm gonna end it all out of depression. No, that's really morbid.
That's the best thing about the water. It's not only that it's 100 degrees outside with 100% humidity and you're neck deep in water, and like you come home and you see all these posts on Facebook about how hot it was today, and you're like, that's pretty nice in the water, neck deep. And like last year was the coolest summer that I've ever had because I was neck deep pretty much the whole summer. And there's no impact. You're not getting up and down like, on your knees and sweating your what's off. I love the water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. I love it too. It's the way to go. I think it's an uncharted frontier that I think probably in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't want to give the idea that it's easy because it really does take work. I mean, so we can talk about like research. How do you guys get into the research of your sites? I mean, and then let's talk even about the legalities of it. It's not, you better be sharp on what you're doing because like in Virginia, there's a permit system. There's all these places you can't go.
No, absolutely. Everywhere. It gets harder and harder by the day of places you're not allowed to go metal detecting. And the first part was the research, and right. We get that question all the time, like old maps. Old maps are the key to everything. And I'm not talking about, the satellite images that you can get from like the 50s. I'm talking about like the old topographic maps where you have roads and dots. Those dots were houses. You find a road with a dot, that was a house. That's not there anymore. That's in a field now. And those, like, I even love finding this. Obviously, the sites that we stumble across in random farm fields that were probably starter homes and stuff like that. Those are the places that aren't on the map that you just stumble across, and those are like the best when you find those because you can't research stuff like that. You just stumble across them.
That's the dumb luck stuff.
The houses that you didn't know were there. A big shout out to Loy and Diggin with 7. Thank you, my friend, for the super chat. Absolutely great dude. Go check his channel out. He's fantastic. And you got to enjoy hanging out with Loy at Diggin in Virginia.
Yeah, it was the first time we got to meet Loy. He's we've both been a long time support over each other's channels, and it was a great time meeting him as well as you guys and a bunch of other people that we've never met before. I wish I could go back right now and do the whole Diggin in Virginia over again, because I know so much more about that site from like the last day, the last hour, than we walked into the place blind.
Yeah, and maybe we can talk a little bit about relic hunting, like organized relic hunts, which you guys have gone to a little bit more, and then we're coming close to an hour. Mike Lyman, thank you as well for the super chat. Another great channel. Thank you. He said great show. So thanks, Mike. I much appreciate it. So you guys have gone to a few more organized relic hunts over the last few years. That's a kind of a tough thing to do, right? It's cool because you kind of get to go out and you get to meet new folks. In fact, we wouldn't have got to meet if it wasn't for Diggin in Virginia or JGD or wherever, But what's your thoughts on that for somebody who's never been to an organized hunt, and you guys have been to the bone hunt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to bone last year. Yeah, we went to bone last year.
Yeah.
What was the other one? CCWP or PW?
That's perfect. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah. So me and Bob are right on the same point with that.
Yeah.
Bob calls it the CPPOPOWPO.
PO 10001.
But anyway, you guys you've expanded outside of just one type of route, either Civil War or organized hunt. What would you tell somebody going to those sites or to a new type of organized hunt for the first time?
Just take it all in and enjoy yourself. Just like with any trip or vacation, just try to take it slower. It'll go by way too fast. And a lot of people do like the Diggin in Virginia type hunts because they want to hunt Civil War and they've never hunted Civil War. Unfortunately, a lot of the sites in Virginia that these places are at have bad soil, and that's where the pulse induction machines come in handy. And it's a whole nother animal. I learned the pulse induction machine, tried to learn the pulse induction machine as much as I could before we got there, and then you get there and everything's turned backwards because of the soil.
Right. Absolutely. It's a
lot. Open mind and get ready to dig.
Yeah, dig a lot of holes and don't get frustrated at nails, especially if you're going to go to DIV. And talking about the last DIV you guys went to, that's a massive site. It's 3,000 acres. I mean,
but both of the sites that we went to with the Just Go Detecting and the DIV were absolutely enormous. And it's a bit overwhelming. And you can pick out certain people if you follow YouTube and figure out places to go or people to follow. But then again, it's you want to stumble upon your own stuff too.
Right.
And that was our biggest problem with the last one. We're everybody's going here, everybody's going there. I wonder if anybody's tried over here. Let's go find our own honey hole. It never happens.
Yeah, it's tough. It is very difficult. And now moving into this, and both of you just got back from England as well. So even different organized relic hunt.
England was. Go ahead, Brad.
A whole other animal. A crazy, wild experience from beginning to end. Exhausting, worth every cent. I mean, it was many things, and it was something we hope to do again. We got good footage. We some bilge Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, like, there's a lot of crossover because, like, our passion's colonial. We like early American history. And a lot of the stuff that we find comes from England. And we go out in this field, we're starting to find, Tomback buttons and old coppers and this, that, and the other thing, the stuff that we find here all the time. And then somebody will pop up a hammered silver or a Roman coin or a fibula brooch, and we're like, we're in England. it was so
It was really to look up and be like, oh my God, this is England. Soak it in. Take each hour at a time and really, because it's really different.
And
Roman to. Go ahead.
We did a 10-day tour, and the first, half of the tour went nice and slow, and we were finding great stuff, and we hit the halfway point, and it was over so fast. Like down to the last hole of the last day, like I'm like barely limping back to the truck, and I got one more hole in me. And that was just a little piece of What? Did you bring it home?
I don't know what that is. What? I'm not.
It's just a little piece of lead.
It's the last target. If I can get a camera, for crying out loud, it's the last target that Kurt dug. And actually, I shouldn't be showing it because it's a tiny piece of melted lead, which is absolutely nothing, but it could be medieval, and therefore I guess I'm stealing it.
You're stealing it.
The Fines liaison is going to be up your rear end now.
I don't know why I took it. I took weird things from time.
I can't believe you have that. That is so funny.
Oh my gosh!
It's going to end up on eBay now, isn't it?
It might.
It'll be a $100 piece of lead. Big shout out to Nate Taylor and Ben Detecting for the super chats, and Cliff, my good friend. Thank you. I tell you every week you don't have to, but I much appreciate it. Bob says he's calling Interpol, so be sure that they're going to be extraditing you. So man, we've made it actually right at an hour. So I have like a few things I like to ask. So now you've been to England. If either of you could go anywhere in the world without restriction to go metal detecting, where would you go tomorrow?
Mount Vernon.
Flowing hair, to go find one and not destroy it.
You're gonna pick a target?
I'd be the happiest man in the world if I could go back to flowing hair permission tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah, we need to go back there. Bob, you got to get on that. That was a permission.
Can you work that out, please? Yeah, that was pre-work Bob. Man, did he get on some permissions.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Well, you'll just have to independently roll Bob's lifestyle, and then you can get all the permissions in the world you want.
I'm sure my wife would be on board.
The lottery. That's all there is to it. Bob, play the lottery more.
Yeah, play the lottery more. What desert island food? One food on a desert island.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter?
Ugh.
Yeah.
Hot peanut butter?
Brett's the only guy in the universe that doesn't like peanut butter.
I have peanut butter and sandwiches all the time. I just, the dogs get before we leave times and just that hot peanut butter stuff. No. For me, I was going to say like lobster food, but that's stupid. You're on a desert island. It'll work.
I mean, that's all right.
Yeah.
What's all right, here, this is a good one. What's and this is completely unfair to Bob. What's one thing about Bob wouldn't want anybody to know, within reason?
Not necessarily within reason.
How about Brad? What's one thing that Kurt wouldn't want anybody to know about Kurt?
Oh man. All right. Look at his face. Kurt is, he's a bit of a perfectionist. believe it or not. He'll do something over and over again until it's right for him. And sometimes it's just like, buddy, we got to dig some holes. Get on with the show. So he puts in tons of hard work until it's right. And if it ain't right in his head, he's doing it again.
Right on. So
but that's not recreating stuff we dig out of the ground, though. Let me be clear. That's not putting something back in the ground and then we do not that, and we have never done that. Yeah, people like to say that. Ooh, you stop acting, stop laughing. You can't recreate that genuineness.
You can't do it. Like, you can't put something back in a hole and go, "Ooh, this is exciting." It just doesn't work. So what would Kurt say about Brad? That one thing that Brad didn't want anybody to know.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either. These are just things I got.
A whole lot. I'm trying to think of something.
Kurt, Bob said that Kurt has 47 piercings.
So I got a third nipple there. Help you out.
Third nipple.
Well, he does. I mean, I was going to bring that up, but he brings it. He tells people that.
Right on.
I got nothing to hide.
Not all perfect.
So.
Well, it's funny that this question comes up because apparently Brad's bottom isn't as smooth as we've come to know. That's the only place he can grow hair.
Come on.
He can't grow hair in his chest. It's the third nipple.
Never in my life.
I'm a fur burger.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh, Brad doesn't like smells. And
I don't like smells either.
I can't go a day without making Brad go, ah! This is my favorite thing to do.
That is absolutely fantastic. I think that's a perfect way to end the show.
Get us all down.
So
before we get to
yeah, seriously.
Right on, man. First of all, I absolutely appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. Bob, we will make it up to you. I 100% promise. So if you guys like this and you want to see Bob on his own show, which I think probably the two of them would tune in for as well, we're going to do that too. I'm going to just kind of slide out of the side. Don't go anywhere, guys. I appreciate it. And we will wrap this up real quick. So thank you guys again.
Thanks, man. Enjoyed it.
All right, cool. So, man, it has been an absolutely fantastic show. Big props to Brad, Kurt, Bob, Bill, and the guys for coming on the show and sharing their stories. I know an hour doesn't seem like that long, and it rocked and rolled right through. But it's easy when you have genuine people who really want to share just a love for a hobby and what they do. If you guys like this kind of thing, I encourage you to stick around, enjoy the live streams that we do here on the show weekly or bi-weekly. Big props and thank you to M.A. Lyman for the super chat, Nate Taylor, Ben Detecting, Cliff, Underfoot Adventures, and Diggin with 7. Go out and go support those guys. I hope you take care of each other out in the chat as well. My name is Matt. This is Gone Diggin' live from the Relic Room. I hope that you have a great week. Go out and find some history. And if you can't go out and find history, I hope you go out and make history. We'll see you again next week right here on Gone Diggin'. So until then, take care, and we'll see you soon.